Photographing at the beach is just so much fun. There's something about being out on the sand, by the water, that you just can't beat. I have had the honor of photographing so many families at the beach, whether they're on vacation or I'm on vacation or whatever. It's been amazing to be able to capture so many memories, and it's always so fun. I'm really excited to be able to dive into 7 tips that you can use on your very next session at the beach to make it the best that you've ever had. Let's dive in. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm your host, Rebecca Rice, and today we're talking about beach photography. It's going to be so much fun. Now, before we get too far, I wanted to let you know about a free class that I have just for you guys. This is called the 5 Steps to Launching Your Photography Side Gig. So whether you have a full-time job outside of photography or you are maybe a stay-at-home mom, whatever that may look like for you, in this class, I help answer all your questions of what you need to do to take your business from being a hobby to an actual legit business. And so we walk through like how to actually get legit and the steps that you need to take to, get ready for taxes or register your business. And there's so many things. So if you have questions about that or you think this would be helpful, there's a link below. Go ahead and register, and I can't wait to see you there. Now, let's talk all things beach photography. I know for me personally, shooting at the beach is so much fun. It's so beautiful. I always have the best time shooting, the best time editing. It's one of those sessions that I can't stop smiling because it's just so fun all the way through. So I have had the honor of photographing several families at the beach, and I wanted to bring together my 7 best tips that I've learned just through trial and error and things like that to help you have better photo sessions at the beach. So the very first tip that I have for you is, whenever possible, shoot with the sun behind your clients. Now, I know this can get a little bit tricky if you're on the East Coast because obviously the sun sets in the east, or rises in the east and sets in the west. And so the sun is not setting over the water for you. In those cases, I would say leave the shots by the water until very last so that you get that nice, pretty light on your clients and it's not, casting weird shadows and things like that. If you're on the West Coast, then the sun is setting behind the water, and so it's naturally just so beautiful to be able to shoot in. But either way, what I would say is, whenever you can, get the sun behind your clients, because that's how you get that really pretty glow behind them. And it's just overall makes it a whole lot easier, because then you don't have to worry about the shadows on their faces. With that sun behind them, you can adjust the brightness of your subjects in post-processing in Lightroom so that you can brighten them up still if needed, but you still get that really pretty glowy light behind them. The second tip that I have is, when you're shooting at the water, make sure to shoot down the shore. It just adds this dimension to your photos and it allows you to see more of the environment. So what I mean by that is, instead of putting your clients to where their back is completely to the water, when you do that, all you see is water behind them. Whereas if you shoot down the shore, you rotate them so that the water is kind of at their side, then you can see the water, but you can also see the shoreline, the sand, and maybe there's a pier behind them, whatever it may be. So it's really pretty, gets you that nice dimension, and it just overall looks a whole lot better. The third tip that I have is, don't go too wide with your aperture. And what I mean by that, that's your f-stop. If you go too wide or the number is too low, then of course you'll get a nice creamy background, but you want to still be able to see what it is that's behind them, and that's the beach. And so I typically like to shoot between 2.4 and 2.8 for my f-stop. But if I'm along the shore, sometimes I bump that up even to 3.2, just so that I can get a little more detail in the background, because if you know me, I love shooting primarily on my 85mm 1.4. It is my absolute favorite lens, especially for family photography, because I love the really creamy, dreamy background. But when you're shooting on the beach, you don't want to have it so blurry behind them that you can't tell where they are. That's part of the beauty of being at the beach, is that it's so stunning there. And so I like to bump that f-stop a little bit higher just so that you can get some more of that detail in the background. It can still be nice and blurry, but you want to be able to tell what it is. Tip number 4 is to try to keep babies out of the sand as long as possible. If you're shooting a family that has little ones, especially if they're babies that maybe they're just started walking or maybe they're not even walking yet, I would try to keep them out of the sand as long as possible, because once they get into the sand, there's no turning back. Like, you won't be able to pick them up again. There's just, something, they like the texture. They're not going to want to get out, and they're probably going to get pretty messy. And so one thing I always suggest is start with the baby being held. I know I did a photo session recently with a little girl who she could walk. I want to say she was like 18 months to 2 years. I don't think she was quite 2 yet, maybe 18 months old. So she could walk, but even then we had her held for the majority of the first part of the session, just because I knew as soon as we put her down, she would want to explore. She'd want to, feel the sand, all the things, which are all great things to capture, but I want to make sure to get the posed family photos first, then let them explore. So keep them up as long as possible, and then once they're down, understand that you're going to have to be flexible and just follow them for a while. That leads us to tip number 5, and that is to let the little ones explore. Carve out time specifically for this, because it's a great time for candids. And honestly, as a mom, these are some of my favorite shots. They are those candids of just the little ones experiencing the ocean, right? Getting the sand between their toes, touching the water for the first time that day, whatever it may be. This is a great time to capture, of course, the emotion of the candids, but also the little details. So I love to zoom in and get the shots close up of the sand between their toes, because I think toddler feet are just like the cutest. My kids still have really cute toddler feet right now, and so I would love a picture of their cute little feet, their chubby feet in the sand, or leaning down to find a seashell and they're like pinching the seashell with their little pincers. It's so cute. So this is a great opportunity, but just follow their lead, see what they're interested in, and that's the stuff that you can capture during that candid moment. Tip number 6 is, if it's crowded on the beach that you're shooting at, get creative with your composition and be aware of what's in the background, because it's a whole lot easier to get creative with where you're shooting to crop people out than having to edit them out afterwards. Can they be edited out? Yes. But it takes a lot longer. And so what this looks like a lot of times is I'm always aware, if we're in a crowded area, I'm always aware of what is in my shot. And if I can turn just slightly to crop somebody out of the corner, I will. And if that means, I'm sacrificing the shoreline, sometimes that's okay, because I would rather, have the shot where the focus is completely on my clients and not have to worry about people in the background. And the last tip that I have for you is, don't be afraid to get in the water. Some of my favorite shots we've ever taken is with the family straight up in the water in their cute dressy clothes. I did a session with a family who, at the end of the session, the mom said, "Can we get in the water?" And I said, absolutely. So the whole family went, and they didn't get too deep into the water, but they all went, and their clothes were getting wet, and they just had a great time. It brought out smiles that I didn't see the whole time. We had so much, laughter that we were able to capture. And then at the end, a big wave came and knocked them all over. And so I was able to get shots of them, falling into the water, laughing, enjoying their time. So that can be a really, really fun way to end your beach session, is in the water. And so always ask your clients if they're up for it. If they're not, that's okay. Respect that, end the session. But if they are, that's a really fun way to end the session. Of course, be really careful with your camera. You don't want to drop it. You don't want to get water in it. So I tend to stay on the shore and not get into the water with them, I'll use, my 85mm is a pretty like long focal length, so I can stand pretty far back. I usually stand on the shore, let them get into the water so there's not a chance of me falling in and my camera, getting damaged by the water. But either way, a great way to end the session. There you have it. There are my 7 tips to shooting beach photography. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already and like this video. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and I would love to answer them however I can. I hope this was helpful and we'll see you next time.